What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and today I'd like to start a series in which I discuss Bob Dylan's Bootleg series. 3 days ago, 4 days ago, he just released his volume 17, a sort of a completely in-depth look at Time Out of Mind. 17. And so what I thought I would do is I was going to originally make a single video in which I rank these, but that's a foolish notion because I talk way too much. And that video would be hours and hours long. So what I thought I would do is I'm going to go through each one at a time and then rank them as we go. So obviously this first volume, volumes 1 through 3, which were only released as 1 through 3. This will be number 1 until at least I do that next video, and then we'll see where it falls to or where it stays as we add more. But this is sort of, I don't know, maybe the ultimate archival release series of any artist anywhere. Maybe King Crimson's in-depth look in which you get 14 concerts of varying sound quality from any given album's period can rival this. I think that's a pretty good release series. Zappa's starting to do some pretty good stuff, but the Dead's live archival release series is kind of unparalleled as far as live stuff goes. But as far as like taking an artist and like looking at different periods in his existence and like giving you outtakes and alternate takes and takes that never made an album, I guess that's an outtake, alternate takes, leftover tracks, live takes, all this other stuff. I think the Bootleg series might be the best series for any musician. Let me know what you think is better because I want to check it out. But we're going to start with the first one, which was released back in 1981. It's called the Bootleg Series, Volumes 1 through 3, rare and unreleased, 1961 through 1991. And this is a 3-disc set in which I'm assuming, I haven't actually looked on my discs. I thought I had them right here. Volume 1 is probably the first disc. Volume 2 is the second disc. Volume 3 is the third disc, right? So we get 3 volumes of stuff going from 1961 to 1991. And much like Frank Zappa's You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore, this volume, the first release, in a way kind of feels both like a roadmap and like a sampler, in that this is the only release that kind of encompasses a completely wide range of years and material. It's kind of like Biograph in that way, though Biograph had like hits on it. It had a lot more release stuff. I think it only had like 18 or so unreleased tracks on it. And Biograph was almost like they just literally put all the songs in a bag and was like, oh, this is first, and this is second, and this is third. There is a randomness to Biograph that I love, which was like his first box set from the mid-'80s. But this is not that. This is 3 discs. The material is all chronologically based. I want to say probably I think it's literally chronological every step of the way. So even if you have sessions from a particular album, the session outtakes are released in the order that they were recorded. I don't think there's any actual jumping back and forth in time at all on any of these. Yes, there are. I knew so. When we get to the Blood on the Track stuff, there's a September 19th track. And then after that, it's the September 16th track, and then we go back to a September 19th track. So there's a little bit of out of orderness, but for the most part, it's all chronological. And so this pretty much gives you a roadmap to what would be released in the other 16 volumes that have been released. You get the first disc is almost all primarily acoustic Dylan. I think on the first disc, Dylan is the only person on the entirety of disc 1. His voice, his guitar, his harmonica. This is stuff going from 1961 all the way up through the Times They Are A-Changin' album sessions. We get some demos, we get other stuff. But it's Dylan and his voice. And I am absolutely amazed, even after all these years, how compelling 78 minutes of acoustic Dylan can be. Like his charisma, his choice of songs, his delivery, whether it's a cover song or it's an original, like there's really anybody unparalleled in the history of music. Like I can think of very few artists. If you give me 80 minutes of acoustic music with just them as a guitar, I'm going to be as completely enthralled as I am with this first disc of music. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. We run from like an early home tape recording of Hard Times in New York Town. We get tapes of recordings of He Was a Friend of Mine, Man on the Street in early 1961 songs, running through a little more like a lot of the Free Will and Bob Dylan outtakes. We get some Times They Are a Changing outtakes. We get stuff that's we get some live tracks thrown in there where you can feel like Bob's sort of interaction with these early crowds back in the Greenwich Village, which are pretty interesting. And then when he moves on to Carnegie Hall a couple years later, you get him playing an even bigger venue. It's just all absolutely, absolutely amazing. And the entire disc ends with his song. It's his poem, essentially, which is from a live concert of Last Thoughts on Woody Guthrie, which is just kind of a crowning cap on what is essentially Volume 1. But yeah, it's just a really, really solid disc, 22 songs. And that's disc 1. So you're pretty much only covering like a year and a half, 75 minutes of acoustic music on disc 1. Disc 2 covers, but also, like I was saying before, is this also there's going to be releases down the line that are these early sort of recordings. And so you have other releases that this hints their way at. I don't think any of these things are on other releases, if I'm mistaken. Yeah, maybe a couple of them are on Volume 9. Yeah, I think a couple of these pop on the Volume 9 disc. Maybe not. Yeah, maybe they do. I think they do. Yeah, I think 3 of these pop up on Volume 9. But anyways, I also think it's the case. It's a lot of information I'm trying to present here. Sorry that this is confusing. But one of the things they did in all the other volumes, I think all other volumes are 2 disc releases, except for 14 and 15. But in a lot of these, you have the choice as a consumer to buy a 2 disc release, which is sort of really well culled material, or like a 6 disc release that sort of is the same stuff on the 2 disc release, but with the additional extra outtakes or alternate takes or live concerts. Or when we get to the Highway 61 Revisited Blonde on Blonde era, you can get an 18 disc set that pretty much has every single thing that ever was recorded from those sessions. But I want to say this, anything that is repeated on this sort of 1 through 3 sampler roadmap, whatever you want to call this, if it is repeated on a future release, it's not repeated on the 2 disc set, but it's only repeated on like the 5 disc set or the 6 disc set. So if you're a consumer like me who's going to save my money in order to buy the 6 disc set versus the 2 disc set, I personally am okay that there were repeated tracks. I think there's a total of 4, 7, maybe a dozen at the most tracks that are on here that are on other things. So there's not a lot. But they do give you a sense of just the amazing stuff that is in the vaults for Bob Dylan. So the first disc, awesome, acoustic, really, really early Dylan stuff. Second disc runs the span from 1963 all the way up to the Blood on the Tracks sessions in 74. And this really only scratches the surface of the stuff that would be later released on future bootleg series stuff. But you got more Times They Are Changing outtakes. You got some great Bring It All Back Home outtakes, some Highway 61 outtakes. You get a couple nice basement tape songs that have not been released before. And then you get what I think was the crown jewel on this release is you get 4 Blood on the Tracks outtakes, different versions of those Blood on the Track songs. Songs that had, I think, circulated on bootlegs, but I do think a couple of these might not have been in circulation and still might just be alternate takes of even more alternate takes. But there is just some fantastic stuff on here. Like an early Subterranean Homestick Blues, the Sitting on a Barbed Wire Fence, a weird little piano version of Like a Rolling Stone. The highlight, probably one of my favorite things on this disc, if not on the entire box set, other than the Blood on the Track stuff. She's Your Lover Now, an unreleased song from the Blonde on Blonde sessions that is just some of his best lyrics, some of his best writing. The music is fantastic. A song that just kind of they mess up towards the end and it just kind of, oh no, we messed up, and they just kind of cut it loose. You get a couple basement tape songs, Santa Fe, which is absolutely excellent, alternate version of It Not For You, another unreleased recording called Wallflower, and then just a Planet Waves outtake, and then the awesome Blood on the Track stuff to close out. Of the 3 discs, I would say that this is by far my favorite. Even though, all the Blood on the Track stuff would be released on the massive box set. The bonus section of that, I think, was 5 or 6 CDs on that. But yeah, this is just a fantastic stuff. And to watch where he goes, I think the first 3 or 4 tracks are all acoustic. And to watch where he goes there, then we go through his electric phase. And then we get a little sampling of like his country phase. And then we get a little bit of basement tapes. And then we end up once again acoustic. Only now it's that Blood on the Tracks acoustic, which is just a more mature, haunting, just fuller version of what Bob can do with simply acoustic music. To see that progression over the course of this like 77 minutes, I think is one of the neatest journeys of any musician. It's like 11 years, 20 tracks, so many different styles, and each one is really just like if it was a cake, if each one was like 12 different cakes, these albums, it's really just like the tiniest little taste of each cake, knowing that there's so much more under there. But it is a release. Volume 2, disc 2 is just one of those that, like, if you're not into Dylan and you like most of the stuff on here, like, you're in luck. You're going to be happy for years just based on rabbit holes that you can follow down on disc 2. Disc 3, we then we get one more Blood on the Tracks track, and then we go all the way up through 1989. We get an outtake or a track from the Oh Mercy sessions. And this, I have to admit, I really enjoy this. Some really interesting songs, a couple Desire outtakes that are interesting. A song about a catfish hunter is on here that is weird. A nice live performance of 7 Days. We get a nice, I think it's a home recording of Every Grain of Sand, and you can hear like his dog barking in the background. That's pretty cool. We get some Shot of Love's outtakes, which are good, but don't even hint at the awesomeness that the Bootleg series, which I think is 13, right? 13 is the Trouble No More one. But whatever one we eventually get, when we get like the Shot of Love, the Save, the Slow Train Coming outtakes, this just doesn't even, like, as good as these are. That box set is so incredibly good, but this kind of hints at the awesomeness that's coming further down the line. We get a bunch of Infidels outtakes, which are pretty good. A Blind Willie McTell, which is awesome. I really like Foot of Pride. We get an Empire Burlesque outtake, and then we get that awesome Series of Dreams, Oh Mercy outtake to close off the entire box set, which is just an absolutely ridiculously good song. So I would say that disc 3, volume 3 is probably not as like objectively incredibly awesome as disc 2, but there's a lot of little moments and a lot of little things in here which sort of kind of reveal that there's a lot more on these albums that the Bootleg series would sort of reveal as they would be released. So yeah, it's an absolutely phenomenal release. I have all the Bootleg series, right? I know, I have, way too many discs of some of these albums, way too many versions of Like a Rolling Stone, stuff like that. But I still really think this is a really awesome release, because it really is one of those where, other than the first disc, which is really, a 1.5 period that's almost all acoustic, discs 2 and disc 3 provide a really neat sort of 75, 76-minute journey of Bob over a period of like, what is it? It's like 11 years on disc 2. It's like 15 years on disc 3. And that journey to like see all the different like sort of pools that he dips his toes in musically, and yet does so, and it still produces songs that are absolutely as strong as most of these songs are. Yeah, man, it's just incredibly impressive. And there are so many highlights on each of these discs that, sometimes I'm not in the mood to listen to, 80 minutes of Blood on the Tracks outtakes, but I do want to hear a couple Blood on the Tracks songs. And if you throw in a couple like Highway 61 cool outtakes and all that other stuff, this is something that I go to a lot. So anyways, I highly recommend this. If you are new to Bob Dylan, I actually think Biograph, his first box set, is probably a better release because it will give you have more of the hits, you have more of the stuff you already know to sort of sink your teeth into and then compare it to other stuff. And plus there's a couple other really good things on there that kind of will send you down rabbit holes. But if you already know you like him and you really kind of want to start digging that hole and going deeper, I think this is a great place to start. And you can decide whether or not, hey, I don't like these Blood on the Tracks outtakes. I really like the other, just the studio album as it is. Then avoid that bootleg series for now. Wait. But you really like this early acoustic stuff. There are a couple bootlegs that just feature really, really early acoustic stuff. Get that stuff first. It's going to make you happy. So again, this is really like a sampler, and that some of this stuff will be released. It's also a roadmap showing you like, hey, we got a whole disc of acoustic stuff. We got a whole box set of acoustic stuff coming. We got all these outtakes from Blood on the Tracks. We got a massive box set of Blood on the Tracks outtakes. So it's just a fantastic release. And I don't know what I was expecting when this first came out. Like maybe every release is going to be like this. And they're just going to slowly, over the course of like every series, we'll get more and more from this era until it completely falls out. But they didn't go that way. They just decided to concentrate on like really small areas, concentrate on an album, concentrate on a period from here on out. If I were to rank these 3 discs, since they are volumes 1, 2, and 3, and just to keep sort of like the spirit of the ranking going, you can't buy them separately. They've never been released separately. They really are one package. And so this, when I rank it according to all the other ones, it will be one block. But for now, if I had to rank them, I would say disc 2 is my favorite. Disc 1 would be number 2. And then disc 3 would be number 3, which also corresponds to my favorite eras of Dylan. 64 through 74 is probably my favorite era. I really like that early stuff. But I'm also kind of really falling in love with that religious stuff. I just think that the religious stuff on this release isn't as absolutely fantastic as the stuff that will be released on a future bootleg series to give away that when we get there. But yeah, I think that's all I got to say on this. I didn't want to go over each song. Again, there's like a total of 36. There's 58 songs on here. I'm sure someone somewhere out there has a detailed analysis of most of these songs. But I do want to recommend it. Oh, also, if you're into Dylan already, and you only have his studio albums, I also recommend this also because, again, this is all outtakes and unreleased stuff and rare stuff. And, you might really love Blood on the Tracks, but you got 3 songs on here in completely different versions, plus a song that didn't make Blood on the Tracks on here, or an alternate version of a song that made Blood on the Tracks on here. So yeah, it's just a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic release. And I highly recommend it. Eventually, probably I'll start trying to hit the other ones, volume 4, and then 5 and 6, till we get all the way up to 17. And then I'll just rank them as I go. But yeah, so anyways, that's all I got to say for this one. Thanks for listening. Let me know anything I messed up or anything I should have pointed out in the comments. But again, an absolutely fantastic release. And for me, I think the absolute highlight of this entire box set, track 12 on the second disc, She's Your Lover Now. Just such a phenomenal piece of music. A must hear if you haven't heard it. But that's all I got. Thanks for watching. If you did, comment, subscribe, like, and most importantly, always the most important thing, go listen to music, people, because you know what they say, what he said, that guy once. Music is the best. Peace, y'all.